First, you mean? Yeah, we're working on it. I think when Melissa gets back, it'll help. Right now, Chuck's a little.
Welcome to the October 17th installment of the Port of Cascade Lots. It's now 6 o'clock and we will start with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
President Lorraine,
I am here.
Vice President Clute. I'm here. Commissioner Nats.
Present.
I'm unmuting Commissioner Peterson. Commissioner Peterson.
Here.
Commissioner Sweet. Here.
All right. Modifications, additions, and changes to the agenda.
Number 8, executive session, we will not be having tonight.
All right, thank you very much.
Good.
Public comment. Do we have anybody online or anybody in our audience that would like to say anything? You find anything? No. Okay, hearing none, we'll move along. We'll start with special presentations. Reports by outside resources, staff and government officials. Ann Mettenbach, commercial broker for Copper West Real Estate. Go ahead, Ann.
Gonna give her just a second, unmute her here.
There we go.
Hi. Hello, commissioners and staff. So I just wanted to give you a quick update on how things are going for Flex 6 marketing. So it's just been on the market with me for 21 days. So you can see in your packet where we've had that listed. So it's gone out on the commercial sites as well as regional MLS, and then social media sites that we post on, as well as our website. In addition to that, I've sent it out directly to about 100 commercial real estate brokers in the region. And I've also responded to a number of requests for lease for buildings of your size. So there's been a number of organizations out there looking for distribution, warehouse, manufacturing in the 20,000 to 50,000 square foot size range. All of those have requested locations within the Portland Metro or Vancouver area. However, I've called those brokers and pushed Cascade Locks as a close alternative with a beautiful new building. So there is need out there. There's been 2 phone inquiries of businesses who I can't share who they are. One of them is in aviation technology, and the other one I can't share, but they are both interested, and I hope to hear back from them in the next week or so after they're done with their searches for property. So that's where we are as of today, and from here forward, we will continue to respond to inquiries as well as pushing out the property. I've also pitched it in person at some commercial broker meetings, and we'll continue to do that on a monthly basis when I go into Portland for those. So I'm happy to take any questions you have.
Commissioners, with further, it's great work, Ann. Sounds like you're getting some traction.
Yep.
And I'm excited to see who those couple of people or businesses interested are, or if they come back. So cross our fingers. Aviation technology would be rad.
Yeah. So we'll see, and I'll be following up with them if I don't hear from them at the appointed schedule.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Ann.
Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Barry Smith, BRSA line development.
Mark, you want to tee up Barry for us?
Figuratively, yes.
Yeah.
Commissioner, good to see you. Barry is someone that I initially bumped into in the Salem in the Capitol when I was running around doing some of my Capitol stuff. He's well placed in some circles within the Portland area regarding residential development. He's had some big ideas and been involved in some really big projects, and in talking to him, and finding out where I was, actively involved now, Cafe Lux came up, the Gorge came up, and he was intrigued to hear more about that. He's had extensive experience in the Portland metro area regarding housing development, but I think it's fair to say, correct me if I'm wrong, that developers may be looking for greener pastures to develop, or let's just say more easier pathways to navigate than the Portland metro area. It's become a little bit, from the bureaucracy standpoint, a little bit difficult to navigate. From a development standpoint, again, costly, time consuming and so forth. And there's a real interest in trying to provide their services outside of the Portland metro area. So that's where Barry comes in. He's looked at some of the parcels that the port owns, and specifically how perhaps he could help the community begin to address what most people put at the top of their list as the highest priority in the Gorge, which is workforce housing. What can we do to provide workforce housing so that our employers can retain staff and that we can really build communities here and so forth? So he's got some specific ideas that I think may be in your packet, and hopefully we can get those up on the screen, related to the property that the port owns over on Undine, which is a really kind of a obscure piece of ground that the port, I don't know what the history is and how we came to, that may even predate your time here, Commissioner Lorraine. I'm not sure when we came upon that, but it just as the crow flies, it's directly east of where the new parking lot was just developed. There's 3 lots there that are in the city. There's own residential, and Barry has looked at that. He's put together some real interesting plans for how that could become some workforce housing. So I'll let him take it from there and
Thanks, Mark.
and share his thoughts, and he'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
So I met Mark in Salem, walking the halls with lobbyists that I had worked with years ago for bringing some projects to Oregon. And I kind of was firing them up to get interested again, and everything I talked about, they didn't like except housing. And I'm an architect that does a lot of smaller scale housing. I started a practice in 1993. And I realized there was no one working with the home building community. And the home building community was under pressure to deal with urban growth boundary issues. 25 years later, now that the home building community is struggling with 2019 House Bill 2001, which is housing choices. We also call it middle housing, where none of the old subdivisions that we developed for dealing with the urban growth boundary work anymore. And the home building industry is not very happy about it. They don't want to have to go through and come up with new building types and things like that. In Portland, it's really tough. There are so many constraints on building sizes and relationship in neighborhoods, and they went through a planning cycle that made it very, very difficult for the home building industry to operate. And people are just pulling out and not working. And the problem is growing. So the need for housing is getting greater and greater.
That's, that was.
So,
you can make sure we have everybody muted.
so for workforce housing, in 2018, 2019, I worked on a project across the street from OHSU on Market Hill. And in the 2021 legislature, I tried to get low-income housing tax credits to apply to middle income areas. Because what we do for workforce housing, I say Davis Bacon numbers that we pay, union scale, is the median income. And you base rents on 25%. And to get it to work, there's still a gap from what it costs us to develop to what workers can afford. as I started circling consensually outside of Portland, and with the advice that I was getting from the lobbyists that I was working with, this guy man, I started looking at areas along the Columbia River, because there's a lot of industrial growth between the Port of Portland and Boardman. There's actually a tremendous amount. And the union representatives are really searching hard to find housing as they job out some of these projects. Intel is going to require 12,000 workers in 2026. About 4,500 of them are available in Oregon. That means they've got to bring in a lot of workers and have to housing. Second thing that happens is those workforces will get subsidies for rent, and they'll start coming into the areas like here with these bridge projects and out renting local people. And there's a lot of displacement. So I'm trying to get out ahead of it. When I met Mark, he started talking about different port properties and his idea of how, from an economic development point of view, pitching some housing along with a port facility of one of your tenants would be something that might attract the companies that you are really looking to come here. And I started searching. It's easier to start with little ones than big ones, because you have Portland some pretty big sites. And I found this site on Undine. Do you say Undine or Undine?
I say Undine, Undine, I don't know, I've heard it every which way, but nobody will throw you out of the room, don't worry.
And I said something to Mark about it, he said, I didn't even know we owned it.
Well, we do, it's been.
Yeah, it's
just in
kind of a small parcel. For y'all, 15,000 square feet is a seemingly small lot. 15,000 square feet for me is, 80 units. And so I came up with a couple of proposals. One that you'll see is for some 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. And another is for some, that's this one. And some are for, and then there's a second one that is for studios. Yeah. This is literally social engineering. Because we engineer the buildings, and the type of buildings that we design allow different types of people to live in it. And as we start mixing units around, you're going to get a mix of people who can afford to live in the spaces or are willing to live in the space. If, for example, on the second project, we have studios, they're 450 square feet, so you're not going to have a family of 3 people. We can kind of adjust these plans to who you need to support in your community and who's looking for workers. And I gotta tell you, we're doing a project in Fairview Village, we just completed it. It's workforce housing that was intended for workers at Intel, not at Intel, at Amazon, the new Amazon facility in Fairview. And we built it during COVID, financed it during COVID, finished it about 4 months ago. Mark came to see it, and we're putting a daycare in the ground floor. And he says, well, that's the second thing that we want. Everybody's looking for daycare, including all the industries for their workers. They're finding it so hard to hire people that being able to have a resource of housing and daycare, goods and services is what they need to attract people to come to work for them. And we can't rely on the home building community to do it for us. The smaller mom and pop builders are gone. I have some younger clients that are doing it, but the industry has been swallowed up by big companies. In the late 2000s, a lot of regional buildings were bought out by D.R. Horton and Lennar Homes, and they don't really care about your community very much. They care more about their bottom line. So asking them to go forward with projects that might help you strategically it falls on deaf ears. So these two sites, with this site, with these two proposals, I took them to all the usual suspects of who I would want in my home building clients. And I don't know what you guys have done, but Cascade Rock, it's like either too far from Portland, or not far enough away from Portland, or it rains too much. There's always an excuse. Yeah, can't find beer.
Yeah, right.
20 miles east, 20 miles west, everybody's beating themselves up. For me, that's an opportunity. To me, I think that's great. And I'm from New Jersey originally, and I went to school in New Orleans. Going out to along the riverfront, seeing bald eagles and osprey is stuff I only saw on National Geographic.
Well, people who move here find that the commute is actually less almost from here to Portland than it is from parts of Gresham to Portland.
Absolutely.
Because you gotta drive through Gresham.
So
Yeah.
the woman that I'm dealing with in the daycare center, she's going to Fairfield Village, and her office is up in Gresham. And I said, if you think about doing another location, this will be her second one. If you want to do another location in Portland, Cascade Rocks is closer. It just is. And it's super highway. So even though it's 20 miles, 20 miles and going through Portland traffic is an hour, 20 miles here is, depending on
20 minutes.
if the radar is out. 20 minutes or less. So the other thing that I got into with Mark was, Mark, why doesn't the port develop its own housing? And do what you say, use it strategically to support your businesses by engineering, the type of housing that the companies that are already in town, their workers would want to live in. And he said, well, there's this thing, ORS 777, that, says we're a port, and we do industrial port activities, and housing is it's always been a question as to whether housing is a port activity.
At our recent Oregon Ports Association meeting, we had large discussions about ORS 777 and the ability for housing. And there are a couple of ports who are putting in housing because of the disparity of workforce. They got Port Morrow is building up quite a bit of housing because they have people commuting from the Tri-Cities for a large amount of workforce they need and no housing. And
Boardman is one of the
Boardman and Arlington are both.
Boardman is one of the places where I'm working also. I have clients that own land there, and they're building a single house on 8,000 square foot lots. House Bill 2001 says you should build triplexes on 8,000 square foot lots. And, the governor wrote the bill.
Yeah.
And she's not gonna budge, and my clients don't wanna do it. They said, well, that's not what sells in Portland. There are 9,000 people that work in Boardman, and there are 4,500 people that live there. So and their daycare, they have a head start that's half full.
And Hermiston's darn near the closest town, Arlington, and Arlington's got the same problem.
Yeah, it's 42 miles, and so Arlington is 26 miles, but again, it's all highway.
Yeah.
Right, there's no traffic. And you're getting traffic at the 84, 82 interchange. It's congested and it's polluted. I mean, the air pollution out there and the stagnation in the summer, it's not good. But I think that there is, I'm dealing with people in the port of Portland, Cascade Rocks, Arlington, all the way out, that there's this community that is happening. And the industries are depending on your community to provide the goods and services and the housing that their workers need, because they're not used to doing it. So we've been getting into AWS, Amazon Web Services, who are building $12 billion worth of development in Boardman, 5 data centers. They're just one of them. And it's anathema to me when I say, you need to get involved in the housing developments and make sure they're not just big cul-de-sac subdivisions that you have in grocery stores, daycares and things like that. So what I'm doing is going to all the different communities, looking at them strategically from a global planning. Where do you fit in the global economy? Where do you fit within the networks that have developed already historically along the river? And then trying to identify sites that I can go pitch to them and say, would you be interested? So the first one that we think is the easiest to kind of bite is this one on the corner of Moody and Dine and Harvey Street, because it's small, you can test it, see if anybody's going to object to the port developing housing. Portland's a different story. The development they did there was 3 Mile Canyon Farms. I don't know if you know that company, but they own about 93,000 acres in Morrow County. And they're out in Montana. There's the company, the family that owns it is a farming company, and they're the largest John Deere dealership in the world. So they kind of push people around. You know what I'm saying? And Boardman kind of does things on their own. And I don't think they really care. You might have more scrutiny. Mark said, who's going to object to housing? I said, housing principal Oregon.
Yeah.
You never know who's going to come out of the woodwork, but it's such a demand that I don't think anybody right now is going to object to it.
Well, as we're developing our strategic business plan, we're going to be very committed to what we're going to do with some of our strategic pieces of property, one of which is the 30 acres, which is right next to the development that you're proposing, as well as some other residential property that we have on the east side, by our east side industrial area, right on the river. Beautiful piece of property. I was looking at your blueprints here for your development, and I love the 2-bedroom units because they're essentially designed with essentially like 2 masters, so that even 2 people who may not necessarily, they're just sharing an apartment, they are not necessarily together. It's perfectly designed to have your common area in the center and a bedroom and bath on each side. So it's great, as you said, for workforce housing. So not only are the units, I'm assuming you have some sort of is there any sort of rent control program with your workforce housing, or is it only because you're building them right?
It depends. So what we're doing is I'm building the most efficient units I can. There's no wasted space. There's no hallways or anything else like that. And our bathrooms are the same size as everybody else's. Our bedrooms and living rooms are the same sizes, but our buildings are very compact. And how the controls occur depends on something that is not an architect's responsibility. I can't tell you who you can rent to, right? Fair Housing Act. I'm also a licensed real estate broker. I have to tell you that. I can't tell you who you can rent to or who you can't rent to. But if you have financing constraints that are based on, somebody says, okay, I'm going to give you some funds to help you develop this, as long as some of our constituents get a chance to rent there. I know like the Selects Tribe has done that through Oregon Housing and Community Services, where they say we're going to take a certain percentage and offer to First Nation members. So you can do that. I try and do it by size and mix. So if you have people in the hospitality industry who are single, they're not going to rent a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom apartment. We only used to build 2-bedroom apartments. And after 2008, 2009, we found that people wanted studios. And so it starts mixing the community within the building.
Yeah, and you can easily change the mix on a building like this.
It's all much.
They all
Right now,
stack on top of
you're
one
looking
another.
at least the one plan I looked at is essentially 12 units. You have 8 2-bedroom units, or 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and then you have 4 1-bedroom, 1-bath units.
Right. So here's the thing. This is a concept that started in the Bauhaus in the 20s and 30s. It's called exist minimum. You know, what do you need to live? And our accessibility requirements are a good way to start because there's certain clearances for cabinets and things. Our basic unit is 24 by 24, which is a garage. So we do accessory dwelling units above garages that are exactly the same floor plan as the 1-bedroom apartments that we're building in high-rise. And we're getting to the point in wood construction where we do it with modular homes. We're working with Skyline Champion. And then we're moving on to doing it out. So the idea is that you, instead of spreading them out or stacking them, and then preserving more land around. So your 30 acres, there's a 30 acres, you can't build on it at all. It's too steep, right? So you stack where it's flatter, right? And then preserve the open space. And that's what this stuff allows you to do. So it's all modular.
I don't see any of this within the packet that I was sent.
It's on the packet online if you go online.
Going to the email.
Go to the web, go to the Cascade Box website, that may be probably the most up-to-date one.
And one of the things we want to do is, maybe invite you to Fairview Village so you can walk. In 10 minutes.
I had a chance to do that, it's a really great field trip.
Yeah.
Not that far.
I live in Woodsville for a number of years and very familiar with Fairview Village. It's a nice compact little neighborhood.
And that's the thing, we achieved our goals. So the other one is Rankin Station. They're the other new urbanism project that came to Oregon 25 years ago. And we have fulfilled our density goals. No other 100 acre development. That's what we have, grocery stores, walkable libraries, post office, city hall, parks. You have to do it that way. And see, Cascade Blocks is already in town. Cascade Blocks has all those things. We're just plugging in, you know, where the opportunities are.
And you said that you were building things that were based off of like the median income and 25% of that, so that it would be within like the service industry's budget and stuff like that. And that's a huge concern of mine. I mean, I lived in a 2-bedroom place in Hood River, and even making back then 70 grand a year, struggled to do like $1,200–1,300 a month with every other budget thing that is included in living life. So I just want to make sure like we're not gonna be charging like $1,200–1,300 for a studio apartment. I think service industry folks would have a really hard time affording something like that, you know?
First of all, you gotta tell people to start tipping more.
Yeah.
They should be able to afford it. The second thing is, when we look at financing, and it's one of the reasons why the building industry is kind of dead right now. Interest rates have gotten to the point where we're not getting the returns at average median income. So your workers, when they rent, aren't providing enough return for banks in New York to lend us money. Right? That's why you get control district in Portland. You know, really expensive apartments that only a few people can rent. Because of your abilities as an agency, the way you do your industrial park, if you start using that mentality towards housing, you can start pushing your yields to the point that are still acceptable to you, but might not be to Wall Street, and provide housing for those employees. But it's gonna be tough. We have not crossed the Rubicon yet, because we're talking to the unions. How can the electrical union build something and say only electrical workers can live in it? Right? How can you build something, offer a studio for $950 a month, and say only people from Cascade Locks who are already living here can live in it? Somebody from, you know, Metro can't move in here and commute. It's tough. Fair housing laws are rigorous on purpose. So it's a delicate balance, and it's not insurmountable. I do it by design. Right? 2 bedrooms, 1 bedroom studios.
The fact that the court owns these properties provides some interesting flexibility from the development standpoint, because court doesn't necessarily need to be cashed out all up front like a private owner would if they're gonna sell a parcel and somebody develops it. You have options on what you do.
That was gonna be the other question is, we haven't really, you know, as this proposal has just come to us, we really have not discussed
Exactly.
whether we're talking about sort of a land trust, or whether we're talking about a long-term lease, or whether we're talking about an outright sale, or what the terms are at all. So, you know, that was gonna be other part of the question, you know, this is.
Or you develop it like you do a warehouse. You know, and lease it yourselves.
Could do that, too.
That's the comfort levels that I'm trying to push everybody by doing the drawings first. You have something to look at, you have something to sharpen your pencil on. They're flexible, it's just lines on a piece of paper. And then you can begin having those discussions about how you protect your community and your interests. Right.
yeah, I've looked at a lot of different models for what could be done on the 30 acres, some of which might be controversial, but it's getting to a point where, you know, we're gonna have to break the paradigm of what's going on in the housing market. You know, not everybody can afford, you know, median price of a home in this area is 450,000.
Yes.
I wouldn't be able to afford it by any means. I bought my house when it was 110, but, you know,
But
so-
so clear, we're talking about not the 30 acres, we're only talking about 15,000.
we're only talking about the small one, but, you know, I'm not at all opposed to the idea of, looking at further types of
I would like to
development
develop the
ventures,
little
et cetera.
one first and see how it goes.
Absolutely, community to catch a vision for what the potential could be too. That's kind of what I'm looking at, it's kind of an entry level
Not at all.
I wanna know if we have water and electricity.
It's reference to a development.
Yeah, that's one of the things that happened when we put in the parking lot, was the infrastructure,
all there.
came, because Undine is adjacent to our new parking lot for the trailhead. So, as Mark pointed out, when we built the parking lot, one of the primary parts of that was addressing the issues of drainage and infrastructure and all of that. So essentially, we've fed the necessary infrastructure to our 30 acres.
And the work.
And to
Right,
the
thank you.
property.
And Barry is familiar with all of our properties. He's been out and looked at them all. So he's been out and seen, he's been out to the end of the point and seen where the potential hotel could go. He's looked at the 30 acres. He's looked at the property on the entry to town. We talked about childcare. So he's quite familiar with a lot of stuff that's on the top of our list and the properties.
I'm calling this one all tons and tons.
Somewhat.
The pilot house.
I'm pretty familiar with planning, and I was on planning commissions in Wood Village, and I was on the planning commission here and been pretty involved. And, you know, like I said, I feel that housing is gonna be an important priority for us in the future. And it sounds like your mindset is the right, you have the right idea.
Well, you saw what we did in Fairview,
Absolutely.
and it wasn't easy. We fought all the way because it didn't meet the standard subdivision. You know, we have alleyways and weird lots and skinny lots and
Yeah,
studios.
I saw a lot of them, yeah.
And it's all mixed together, and we had to sell it. It was difficult.
Well, I think everyone here, especially since they all live up in Shahala, they all missed a lot of the controversy that happened here, you know, 18 years ago, when I was on the planning commission here. Everybody hated these postage-sized lots, all these people that are very egocentric and believed that everybody should want what they have or what they want. And I was kind of a one holdout and said, no, what's been planned here is perfect. You know, we're talking about the first generation that has grown up in apartments and they see property as much as a liability as it is an asset. And they don't want to maintain property. They live in a resort area, they're retiring and have spent their whole lives with a half an acre to mow. So this was, in my mind, a perfect plan, and you know, 20 years later, we see that this is the nicest, best development. It's developed into a beautiful community that 4 of our 5 commissioners live in that area. And it's turned into a beautiful community, so, you know, I think you're on the right track.
We had ADUs in Fairview Village. 25 years ago, we started building over garages, 24 by 24.
Yeah.
So this is just kind of intended to be an introductory just concept, without throwing you out.
Yeah, and you know, this is one of those things where we spend some time with Barry, and so it's time to come and introduce to the commission, so the commission said, we're housing, we're not interested, right? We can say, hey, Barry, thanks for stopping by. It's just not a direction we're going. But it has made it to the top of your guys' list, it's made it to the top of the governor's list, the city's list, business authorities list, it's on everybody's list. And so we wanted to get very in front of it.
The budget's doubled.
Times.
And I guess my point, my pitch would be to some extent is that, you know, the whole board is focused on the topic. And it's all about affordability, but nobody yet has really figured out how to do affordable workforce housing. Affordable housing is a different animal all by itself, because
We don't want
there's all kinds of strings attached, you know, City of River's going through that right now. Which is funny, it works for them, but because of the nature of the fact that the port owns the property, it creates a whole different paradigm in terms of the product you can produce and the price points you can come in at. And the board has a lot of flexibility on what you can do and how you structure the land payoff and stuff, so it gives us opportunities. The other thing I would add to Brad's earlier point about an OPPA and that conversation about ORS 777. I wrote a letter this week to Senator Bonham requesting that legislative counsel, who provides the legal guidance to the legislature, give us an opinion on ORS 777 as it relates to the port's ability to develop housing on port-owned properties. So that'll help to eliminate some of that gray area that exists right now, because there's never really been a substantive legal opinion on that yet. But as you know, there's a lot of pressures from a lot of different.
I thought the stance was that if it wasn't specifically written in the ORS, that we could do it.
That's what ordinance.
That's what's done. It'd be nice to get some clarity, just to alleviate those, because I mean, if, you know, just to take, if anybody says, you know, there are other folks who, you know, may not like that, so to say.
Well, there's industrial sanctuary issues that we deal with in Portland, you know, there's pieces.
I'm not talking about rezoning industrial land, you're saying we already have a land that's zoned residential. That's a whole different avenue than rezoning industrial land and putting housing there, that creates all kinds of other land use issues, so.
Yeah, fortunately, we're not, controlled by, metro, housing density standards. That's what we ran into in Wood Village was, you know, housing density, you make bigger homes somewhere else and they're gonna make you force them into little tiny homes elsewhere. And so we tried to find that middle ground by making concessions as far as doing a planned unit development. And that sort of thing right next to Fairview Village, so.
That's right.
And I think was largely the reason that, Wood Village Town Center became successful. They couldn't sell any of the lots for, you know, any of the development there until there was enough, housing in the area.
Well, we'll keep in contact, we'll work through Jeremiah on this and stuff, and we'll just kind of see how the conversation goes and keep you guys appraised of stuff.
Thank you.
If you want, if you'd like to take a field trip, we can sure set one up down to the complex he talks about. I really recommend it. It's really well done. The furnishings are beautiful. The
And also
work
like
plans are great.
like a layout of our options as
Yes.
far as how we can get
Yeah,
this
there.
done, you know, like I need details, how much it's gonna cost the port, like what are our financing options and the different things and avenues we could take, just to kind of see, give us an idea.
Available funds to even cover
Yeah, I
it,
mean,
grants availability, things like that.
Yes. And do you need to pair it with a daycare? Do you need do you need do you need to begin to pair your housing with some of the sites, including daycare?
At some point.
Because I think the daycare is gonna get you into a lot of doors too.
So when you said modular, you mentioned the word modular, and does that mean, designed in a modular fashion, or are these actually manufactured off-site and then put together in modules?
Both.
Okay,
So we designed, the reason we use 24 feet is because it's a piece of plywood layout. Right, it's not 23/6, it's not 24, it's 2,
Yeah.
it's 24 feet, and everything is on a 12-foot module. Then I can begin to stack it in the factory. And the factories in wood construction are having problems going multi-floors, but we built 2 in downtown Portland, that cold rolled steel, metal studs, that are plugged in. So we can do both. And I want to get it to the point where it's all factory made, because the job safety is,
a whole lot more efficient.
and the job safety, the downtime loss from job accidents, just. When you do in the factory.
Thanks. Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Barry. Have a good night.
All right, I'll see you guys.
Yep, thank you.
You're up again.
All right, get over your passionate about things like that.
I thought it was, cleanup, but I guess you all are.
Legislative update, Mark.
They have an app.
Oh, they have an accent, oh, okay, it's just the information. All right, well, welcome to your, two items I had for you tonight, now hopefully you're in your past, I can some Gary and stuff up there on the screen if you want to review it. You'll recall, we talked about the restrooms, out there, the new, what do we call it, the trailhead parking lot that we developed out on Harvey Road here, just looking at that. What we have done, I'll back up. The parking lot development anticipated the placement of a precast restroom unit out there that will include 2 bathrooms, and each of those are gonna have showers. So there's infrastructure out there, and set up of the parking lot has that in view. If you go out there and drive in the main entry of the parking lot off to the right, you'll see an area of gravel there, a rectangular area. That's approximately where that bathroom will sit. These are precast units. They're completely solid concrete floors, walls, the roof. There's no wood in the building. It's all concrete. Question is, as the purchaser, you have a lot of options on the how you finish the interior. So I just wanted to show you what we have thought we will need to have inside to be sustainable, low maintenance, stand the test of time and so forth. And they give you a little punch list here that I think we have before you, and you can kind of see the list of things that we've done. I've worked with Darren, our engineer, talked to Todd, the facilities guy, about this. So this is just an information item about what the boxes that we checked and the kind of furnishings that we think that we need just to be really, again, low maintenance and really as strong as we can. So for instance, there's a difference if you want to go to stainless steel toilets. It's a $1,750 upgrade over the China toilets. It would be standard. So if somebody's gonna create some damage, you've been in bathrooms, you get vandalized and so forth, then China fixtures are easier damage than something that's stainless steel, plus the cleaning. So
Everything on this bathroom is focused on being as simple as possible.
like, it's the word bulletproof, and that's not accurate, but it's what you're trying to accomplish. Sometimes it's gonna be really hardy for the long haul. So again, same thing with the sinks, they'd be stainless steel. We would like to add electric hand dryers, so we don't have paper products in there that will create, waste and all of that sort of stuff. You get on the line, you've got automatic flush valves on the toilets, so they flush themselves. You've been on the list here, you got coin operated showers. Those seem like it's a small item, but they're $2,500 a piece versus just having, handles on the wall. So you get on the list, that's kind of that sort of stuff in here.
Are baby changing tables required by law?
I don't know that's a good question. I don't believe that they are, but that's a good question. It's an option, so. I'm not bothered.
Definitely been in bathrooms that didn't have them.
Yeah, I'll ask, but it's an option, so that's why it leads me to believe that perhaps it's not. Check with the inspector on it. It's a good comment. So anyway, you've got the laundry list of stuff there that, again, we think is necessary. So the unit comes in at a base price, which is at the top of the list, it's 103 and some change. By the time you add on all of the other items, the add-ons as well as shipping and installation and stuff, it ends up to be a grand total of 162 and again some change. So these are the figures that we used when we applied for the Oregon Park and Rec. What was this? The large government grant for this project. We submitted this cost as well as they added in some site costs for, at that point in time, we had anticipated having to do some concrete around the exterior and so forth, as well as some additional setup. I don't think there's gonna be much of that because that actually was part of the original scope of work with the parking lot. So, because the original request, and that's on this sheet here, was 197 was what we actually submitted for the grant. So this grant, we were awarded, of course, required a 20% match, so that brings our net receipts on this project down to 158. So that pays for a large lion's share of the project. As you can see, the rest of the funds there would be coming out of the ARPA funds we have available. And Chuck's keeping good eyes on that, so. And again, just there's an overview or a site plan of the actual location there. You can see where you drive into the parking lot, and it's that area, that rectangular area just to the right is where the restroom will be placed. So super easy. The semi can pull into the crane. They set these things in a couple of pieces. You got to do some connections underneath with the plumbing and electrical and so forth, and pretty simple process. So this is just an information item. If there's anything that stands out in this list that you'd like to see us add, it's not here, you can say so. We'll need to place the order on this because there's about 150 to 180 day lag time on delivery. This, since Congress passed, I think it's called the Great American Outdoor Act about 3 years ago. It put all kinds of money out there for park and rest areas and trailheads and stuff, and this company that manufactures these things up in Spokane is just backwater, but anyway, so. So that's what you have in front of you, so if there's anything you'd like to, any questions you have, let me know, or
So we
anything.
have the $40,000 to match already set in the budget.
So our conference,
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
is this the only quote we got?
This is the only company that manufactures these.
Okay.
There aren't a lot of other, they're the only ones I'm aware of that actually, these, any of the trailheads you drive to, up Highway 35 and so forth, you see these, maybe there's one at, Pocket Creek, there's one at, the line at the.
Did they do the one that's at the new, bike head?
Yes,
the
exactly, over here,
Bianto?
yep, exactly, same company, they're the only guys on the fast to make these. It's
How they like to move the Cascade Locks, we got a 42,000 square foot building, they could start manufacturing them right now.
Yeah.
It's not going.
At the concrete, sorry about that. So there's that, so again, yeah, let me know if there's, or let Jeremiah know if there's anything else you have questions about, or you'd like to,
I look forward to the Bianto one and see what we're getting.
well,
Yeah.
yeah.
He's going on the back of the
It's gonna
store.
be better than that, that's a dry one, that's just, you know, there's no water in that one, I don't believe, it's just.
There's, they have showers and everything at the,
The Weiss is.
Oh. Are you talking about the new?
Weiss is.
I'm talking about the new Bianto one where
Oh, the new one.
they expanded the trailhead out,
I'm talking about Wyeth, I guess.
Gotcha.
This one.
where they
That's
did
the bike,
the bike grand opening thing recently.
Yeah, right,
And they have little tent pods for and lockers
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the bikers.
yeah.
Yeah. So there's showers and everything. So it's the same manufacturer. They're really nice.
Oh, well, I can't speak to that one.
Oh, gotcha. So it's the Wyeth trailhead.
The Wyeth one is the one I'm referring to.
Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, one other information item, the 25th, which is middle of next week, I guess. We're having a meeting here in Cascade Locks that, Nate Stice, our governor's regional solutions director, has put together for the port and the city, and it's primarily for the governor's office as well as a few other agencies and so forth, to have a chance to sit down and talk with the city and the port, and by that it would be Jeremiah and I, and be George at the city and so forth. Projects, about items of how they can perhaps help us navigate as we look to the future and so forth of what we see in front of us, what projects are, you know, how can they help us on a variety of fronts, so. Business Oregon will be there, DLCD, which is the Department of Land Conservation and Development, DEQ, ODOT will have a representative, and KED, Jessica Matt, I think, from the KED will be there as well. And then, of course, as I said, Nate Stice in Governor's Office, so. Basically, it's just,
What's the date on that?
it's the 25th.
Next Wednesday.
Yeah, it won't be a public meeting per se, it's just a time for us just to really, they just would really like to find out what's going on in Cascade Locks and just would like some things of interest that we could get in front of them, so. The items that I was gonna talk about from the ports, that I think would be important for them to understand, is first of all, just review all the different grants and things we received over the last few years, you know, let's talk about our 2.4 million in lottery bond fund, let's talk about our ARPA fund, what we're doing with that, as well as some of the other smaller grants we received and how we're using this to develop our community. Housing is another topic I really want to get out there and stuff so that they can flag us and understand that this community is potentially interested in pursuing some of that. How can you provide resources to help us along that? Obviously, the bridge is always a big topic anytime you're talking to these agencies, but also other transportation projects, and ODOT will be there as well. And then, of course, business park development and so forth, just to give them some background on what we're doing, where we're going, where we'd like to head. But, and the city has a list of things too, from, I think there's a sewer plant facility, I think, I forget what else, everything that powers, the power lines. The power thing is a big deal for the city, yeah, but they certainly are looking for some resources to help with what they need.
Or I think it is move those lines underground over there on South Bank area.
It goes to supply,
South Bank, they have to, oh, that's adding them.
right, yeah. So anyway, we'll report back to you all after that, but it's just a good chance for us to get to see some of these guys face to face, and I don't think they've had a chance to hang out with Jordan or Jeremiah that much, so it'll be good to relationship building there too, so, yeah, we'll give you some follow-ups on that, so. Okay. Well, Yep. Yeah, you're on.
Can we switch the agenda items, let these guys know, I feel bad, that they're just listening to us talk. I've quite enjoyed it.
Mr. President, do you have a problem with us moving it seven?
No, not at all. In fact, I was seeing that and going, you know what, let's move our business action items up to, right before the consent agenda. Let's go, make 7-3B.
So the Hood River Energy Council came here, before us, so when did you guys come from here last time? February?
May.
May, we're here in May, and asked, for us to, make our contribution, which we make every year. The commission asked them to come back after the, budget had been put into place, so we budgeted it in case the commission did say yes, that they wanted to. But it made sense for them to come and explain to you again what the Energy Council does and make that request to you.
I recall you guys being here before, I don't think I was on the commission yet, but
Right, if you were here.
I was part of the audience.
Same here.
Great, well,
So
welcome back. Thank you for inviting us.
Well, with that being said, they may all be very aware of what you do, so.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. My name is Lindsay McClure. I'm a project manager at the Mid-Columbia Economic Development District, and I staff the Hood River County Energy Council. Eric is co-chair of the Energy Council and leads the Energy Council's Transportation and Land Use Subcommittee. And yeah, next slide. As Jeremiah said, we're here to introduce ourselves, give an overview of the work that the Energy Council is doing, and provide an update for those of you who are more familiar with our work. And so to prepare you to make a decision on our fiscal year 2024 budget request. Next slide. So the Hood River County Energy Plan is a strategic plan that helps our community maximize economic benefits and improve community resilience by reducing emissions from the burning of fossil fuels. In 2016, the city of Hood River invited the other jurisdictions in the county, the city of Cascade Locks, and both ports to contribute to the process of writing an energy plan for the county. We saw a lot of opportunities in this area and saw that working together in a more coordinated way could help everyone go farther instead of working in silos. So over the course of about a year and a half, an iterative process that involved a lot of community input, community meetings, drafted the energy plan that we currently have. The energy plan was adopted by resolution in 2018 by 4 of our local jurisdictions. The Energy Council is centered on 3 goals: reducing emissions from the burning of fossil fuels, increasing energy resilience by increasing local energy generation, and increasing local investment in energy projects. The energy plan is unique because it was written in a way that focuses very specific on our small county here, recognizing that the urban counties to the west of us and the more rural counties to the east of us have different opportunities and also different challenges. So the solutions that are in the energy plan are very specific to Hood River County. And at the end of the day, it envisions a community with good local jobs, clean power, safe, comfortable, and healthy buildings, and a community that's prepared to mitigate the impact of long-duration power outages. To support the implementation of the Hood River Energy Plan, we have an Energy Council, which is a community-led advisory body comprised of 11 volunteer members. We have 7 at-large members, including Eric, and they are energy professionals working in Hood River or the surrounding counties who dedicate their time to helping with the implementation of the plan. And then we also have 4 representatives for each of the plan adopting governing bodies. Pam is the representative for the Port of Cascade Locks,
And our governing body representatives play a really important role. They act as a liaison between the Energy Council and the body that they represent, making sure that each of the bodies are up to date on the work that the Energy Council is doing, and making sure that the Energy Council understands what your priorities are so that we can focus our work on what's most important to you, and that our projects are prioritized in a way that's also in line with what you're working on. So we are always available to come and present and speak with you all, and we rely on the governing body representatives to let us know when there are projects that might have some crossover. You know, excited to hear about the conversation earlier tonight about workforce housing, and thinking about if that project were to move forward, it would be great to talk about ways that the Energy Council might be able to support to make sure that those are units that have low utility costs for the inhabitants, and other topics that are important to everyone thinking about the places that we live. Next. To fund the Energy Council, we asked for capacity funding from each of the governing bodies that adopted the plan. This capacity funding allows us to keep our work focused on the issues that are important to our community. And it also allows us to go and ask for outside funding that often asks for a match. So we have been asking each of the governing bodies to contribute to the energy plan implementation each year. And then we also work hard to apply to grants from foundations and other organizations that see value in our work. In the past, we received grants from Meyer Memorial Trust, Energy Trust of Oregon, Ford Family Foundation, and other foundations. In addition to capacity funding, we also look for funding for specific projects. And last year and this year, we've been fairly successful in bringing in project-specific funding. There's a program through Oregon Department of Energy. I'll use the CREP acronym. It's a mouthful, the Community Renewable Energy Grant Program. And Hood County won 3 of those grants this year, which is pretty exciting. One is for a project in this building right here. And then but thinking that we should do maybe some weatherization. On top of it.
Miracle in here in the summertime.
Up greater, one chamber.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting to be in this building thinking about, I thought about this project from a energy generation standpoint, but I'm also thinking right now about energy conservation opportunities. We should talk further about that. On that note, I'll pause, and I want to talk about some specific projects, and I will talk a little bit more in detail about the project that we're working on in this building.
Okay, cool.
All right. So talking about our work plan, in April of 2022, the council adopted its current work plan. The work plan is comprised of 32 projects that were chosen based on a number of factors, really looking for the low-hanging fruit. How can you do the most with the least amount of effort? Also taking into consideration equity, benefits to our adopting governing bodies, the value that the project will bring to our communities, the capacity that's needed, and likelihood of success. So
Are those 32 projects listed on your website at all?
they are on our website. You can find our current work plan, and each of the projects are broken down into 4 different categories: transportation and land use, buildings, community scale solutions, and then cross-cutting projects that we are woven into numerous other subcategories. And to lift those projects, the Energy Council works in subcommittees that are the same subcommittees as those categories that I just mentioned. And the subcommittees are really focused on project implementation. So to give you an idea of the type of work we're doing, I'd like to share an example of one project that each of these subcommittees is working on. And you'll understand that this isn't the full breadth of the work that we're doing, but it'll give you a sample. With the 32 projects, some of them are smaller projects that move more quickly, and some of them are really long-term projects that we're plodding along with. So yeah, next slide, I will. Oh, you're doing great. Yeah, I guess I'm just. So to talk about the community scale solutions subcommittee, which has been really focused on energy resilience from the very beginning. One of the first things that this subcommittee did was to open up a dialogue with Hood River County's Emergency Management Office. And we put together a list of critical facilities that support community lifelines in the event of an emergency. And took this long list and narrowed it down to 10, and with the help of Energy Trust of Oregon and the Bonneville Environmental Foundation, had feasibility assessments done to design solar and storage microgrids that would power the buildings if the buildings would lose power. And for these feasibility assessments, we asked for a 50% confidence interval that the building could maintain power for up to 2 weeks. In Oregon, it's really, in the summer, it would work quite well, and the winter we would have intermittent power based on our lack of sun. So we had, the timing was really great. Right after these feasibility assessments were completed, that ODO Community Renewable Energy Grant Program opened up its first round of funding, and the types of projects that they were looking for were the exact projects that we had these feasibility assessments done. So we were really well positioned to take advantage of those grants. And we, like I said, put in 3 applications in the first 2 rounds, and were successful with all 3 of them. One of them was for a solar and storage microgrid for this building. And that construction grant was successful, so we have money to build that project. The caveat is that the building needs a new roof before we put solar panels on it. So we, the city also applied for a grant to FEMA's Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, and that grant is also for the microgrid, but would include the replacement of the roof. And that grant moved from the initial application phase to sub-application phase. And now we're working with FEMA through that application, and we're hoping that that will also be successful. And if the FEMA money comes through, then we would be able to both replace the roof and put the solar panels and the battery into this building. So we're working on this project and similar projects in different parts of the county. I think that I've done quite a bit of talking, so I'm going to let Eric talk about what the Transportation and Land Use Subcommittee is working on.
Okay, in the county, transportation energy is the largest energy use, the largest energy spend, and the largest energy toxic and climate emissions. So there's a huge opportunity to electrify all this. An average EV is going to save about $1,200 a year on fuel. It's the equivalent of running your car on about $1 per gallon gasoline. So these are coming driven by economics. The upfront cost of the vehicle price is also coming down significantly. Everybody's racing to build a $25,000 EV, and they're going to be 250 mile minimum range. So that will be within the next 2 years. You'll see a flood of those kind of vehicles. The question becomes, okay, where are we going to get all the chargers for these? Most of the charging for at home, we'll need some fast chargers, and we'll need to arrange charging for overnight at multi-unit plugs, like the previous speaker was saying. 10 years, maybe 10 years, at least 20 years from now, all those people will be electric. And so one thing we're finding with fleet electrification is it's far cheaper to dig once, conduits cost about $100 a foot to bury, so, well, the plan for this, and we're sketching potential plans to do exactly that. The county's not so big, that you could pretty well identify, for example, Cascade Locks. We think should have about a dozen fast chargers, like the Tesla charger, more or less at Route 1. That's what you will want eventually in Cascade Lock. That's the ballpark. There'll be somewhere between 200 and 400 of those stalls throughout the county, most of them in Hood River, but we can pretty much know where these vehicles are. There's about 25 EVs registered in Cascade Locks right now. Multiply that by about 50 and you'll have the eventual build out.
How many you say?
It's about 25 right now.
That doesn't include PHEVs, does it?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, okay, well, one of them then.
So this is gonna go exponentially, and there's quite a long lead time for planning, permitting, and getting the power infrastructure to these chargers, especially the fast ones. Most of the chargers will be at home. In the county, about 70% of people own their own homes. You put in another circuit that's like a dryer circuit. And that's the most efficient, the cheapest, simplest way to do it. But when you're out on the road or when you're in a rental unit, we need to figure out how that happens and best to get ahead of it. Any new construction, the state requires 20% of new parking created to be EV ready, meaning it has conduits in the place for the power implement. Zoning should require 50%. And you can do that if people stay. But that's a current program. We just convened a whole bunch of EV stakeholders throughout the county this week, and that's the main project in the county.
All right, and to finish with buildings, one of the primary projects that the building subcommittee right now is working on is the project we're calling Creating Equitable Access. And the goal there is to make sure everyone in our community has access to safe, comfortable homes. And the first phase of this project was really a research gathering and outreach phase, talking to energy assistance service providers to find out about the types of services they provide and what barriers are keeping them from expanding or reaching more families. And then we worked with the next door to do community outreach in the form of a focus group and a survey to talk to people about the homes that they live in, the challenges that they have, whether or not they're accessing programs that they would qualify for, and if there are programs but they are in need of assistance, what sorts of things would be beneficial to them. So we're compiling a report from phase 1, and phase 2 will be taking actions on the findings that we had in phase 1, which includes outreach to make sure that, you know, right now it's a really remarkable time when it comes to energy, that the money that's out there is really unprecedented. So we want to make sure that everyone in our community knows what's available to them, and if there's programs that people qualify for, that they are able to take advantage of those programs. So that's the main focus of the building subcommittee. And with that, I will open it up for questions.
I think for the last 3 years, the request has been 5, and we've given you 1,000, is that right?
Yeah,
That's what I saw, the request has been for about $5,000, we give him 1,000, I believe Butch Miller represented the Board of Cascade Locks, he was appointed to represent in her position on the Energy Council. So this is something that you guys can take back and we can go back at the next meeting, if it's something you want to make a motion on now, either one of those would be fine. We do have it as an action item, but typically I wouldn't.
What did we set aside in the budget?
We set aside 5.
Well, if one of the commission wants to make a motion, I'm. That'd be okay with that, or you can wait and discuss it and make the action later. It's totally up to you.
I'm in full support. I've been doing a lot of reading and researching, trying to get up to speed. And they have done amazing work and grants are really out there right now, so, I'm in support of it. The 5,000.
I am too.
All right, somebody gonna make a motion on that?
I make a motion to support 5,000.
Yeah.
How are we gonna word this?
The council budget request, the council, how would you just make a motion to approve the $5,000 request from the Hood River Energy Council?
All right,
I'll let you say that so I can second it.
I make a motion to
Approve the $5,000
approve the $5,000
request.
request from the Hood River Council, Energy Council.
And I will second that.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve the $5,000 request for the Hood River Energy Council,
Is Rob available to talk?
and it's been seconded. And any discussion?
No, I think I'm all for it too, I think it's
All right. It's been a motion and a second, all those in favor?
I,
Okay, passing unanimously.
Thank you guys, and thank you so much for,
Thank
you
you.
know, it was a long time to wait for that, so I appreciate you coming back again.
It's great to hear what you're working on, so, yeah, thank you.
yeah, I'd love to be in touch if we do move forward with that workforce housing to get some help on making it like ready for EVs and, you know, if there's anything.
Yeah, we just spent $5,000, we will.
Right. Investment here.
Yeah.
You definitely want to
In this plan, it's slow.
that evaluate, so you know where to find us, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, well, if the group pictures on this plan are sloped to the south, get the solar panels on there.
They're quite surrounded by trees right now too, because it's right next to the trailhead, I definitely don't wanna decimate all the trees.
For sure. All right, then,
And then move down.
So, moving on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda may be approved in one motion, or you can remove any item for further discussion if you would like.
I motion to approve the consent agenda as is.
Well, I guess I need to say what it is. Approval of minutes for the commission meeting for September 19th, 2023 and October 3rd, 2023. Ratification of the bills in the amount of $284,472.43 and approval of payroll for 9/20/23 in the amount of $36,405.02 and for the 10/5/2023 in the amount of $35,509.82. And you already made a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated. Do I have a second?
I'll
And I
second.
have a second. Okay, it's been
I also don't see any of the details for the ratification of the bills or the payroll in my packet.
Oh, the one online?
The one that I received on email on Friday.
I see it online.
So I didn't realize that when I sent out the initial packet and if I make any updates, I thought it would just link to the one that's on the website, so. I guess that's something I'll look into.
Sarah, we can get into that right now, is it listed online or no? I have a good copy of it.
Yeah. Yes.
And I did them on Teams.
Yeah. This, yeah, it doesn't even have the number here. Whenever we started saying the ratification bills and the amount of, I was just blank. Okay, I was like, oh, it's $0. Okay.
I just can do the link to the 1, 2 on Teams.
So, okay. Oh, cool.
It's page 30.
There you go, page what? Okay.
remake the motion and re-second it, or are we good?
I think we're good so far.
We're gonna discuss
A motion, and we have a motion on, we have a second, right?
We have a motion in a second,
Okay.
and, I've got discussion over this one.
I'm not even gonna see that Flex's thing come through, is that on next?
Yeah, we're gonna do it at the same time we do the power thing. So the special meeting that we're having, we discuss the power, we'll talk about. Where that money to go and what that will.
Well, I was didn't have a big bill coming from business lawyer. I thought I would see it on this.
East-West Solutions.
T-Square is the polling software that we use there. Here's mine.
Oh, wow. Thanks. Okay.
That a monthly cost or a
Annual. Annual.
annual? So that's covered by like the whole.
Yeah, hold on, how's that? Okay.
Thanks, I just wanted to see.
Yeah,
I didn't see it
appreciate
all.
you taking the time to look through it.
Okay, are we ready for it?
What's the New Hampshire special districts?
Interesting.
All right, all those in favor?
I am,
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. General managers report.
I sent the tree tribe invitation that we sent out in front of you, that's mentioned at my last. Manager report, but I want to get a copy of it for you guys to take a look at. I haven't had any responses back, so I don't have a date for it. I may reach out again and give them a few dates to choose from to make it a little simpler.
Great.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm certainly glad the conference season is over. It's a lot of running around. I certainly enjoyed the time and the presentations and meeting with my peers and hearing other ideas that the reports were doing. And anybody who's working in and on the river, we most recently went to PNWA. I was able to attend with Vice President Klute and Commissioner Peterson. Sort of highlights for me was John Sloan. He was environmental and sustainability out of the Port of Seattle and talked a lot about using MOAs with the tribes in some of the projects that they were doing. And it had a lot of interest. There was a tremendous amount of overlap. There's two tribes that they work with up there. We work with four, so it felt even a little bit more complex for us, but I took a lot from that presentation. We also got an update, among others. It was 2 very long days. But Michael Shannon, project director for the Hood River White Salmon Perch replacement, so we could catch up and see how that was progressing. We also spent a fair amount of time with Kevin Greenwood, who's the executive director for the river, so we got some insight to it from him as well. And talked a little bit about our bridge, which was good. Also spent a little bit of time with Paula Miranda. She's the general executive director at the Port of Newport. And in general, it was a good and productive time. The membership meeting, which is something that is good to jog my memory, which is, so at the membership meeting, I didn't vote. It didn't necessarily matter because they were all unanimous. But I actually had not been directed by this commission to vote on behalf of the port. It would either be me or Brad or someone else that was going to be attending. Brad wasn't able to make it, so we didn't participate in the actual voting just because I didn't have it written, but again, it was unanimous. So I don't know how much it would have mattered, but was something that highlighted. And they are going to be, well, there was a couple of different votes. They changed some bylaws, just sort of way things were structured. They have a new executive director, Neil Mallard.
Neil somebody.
Neil, I can't remember how to say his last name. Manu maybe, M-A-N-U. they have a new executive director, so he's making a few changes to the way that the actual association is structured. But then they particularly were highlighting was that there was a need for membership dues to go up. That was sort of going to be the big sort of vote that was gonna happen, and it wound up not happening, they wound up pushing it off. But we will very likely see an increase to our membership dues from them, so I'm eager to see what that comes back at. It could be substantial, so we'll have to review the benefit of that association, one we've been part of for a long time. It's the one that we use to lobby when we're in Washington DC. But we'll see, I just don't have any information right now what those will be going up to, other than they'll be going up. Next stop update, you want to give us an update on that, Mark?
Yeah, I think as you know, the city planner had requested some, the board do some due diligence regarding traffic. And traffic counts into potential traffic count into changes in traffic, put it that way. In Marina Park as a result of having a stop restaurant there in place of the old Stern Hooter Cafe. Darren, our board engineer, did some calculations, he did some assessments and provided a report back to the planner. And the report that he gave the planner, he submitted the planner, said that based on the planner's criteria, that there would not be a need for a conditional use permit for that facility. There would be a permitted facility. So we received a letter from the city early this morning stating that, which is a good thing, because that means that we don't have to go through another weeks and perhaps month-long process working through the planning commission, which can be pretty lengthy, as I think you know. There's timelines for things in there and they don't happen very quickly. So that was good because it stopped their subcontractors have been held off because the county of Hood River would not sign off on their plans for some of the sewer upgrades they wanted to do, some of the electrical upgrades, waiting for the city to give their blessing to the county planning commission. So that happened today. So they've got a plumber that'll be in there doing some work tomorrow. I think there's an electrician as soon as he's available to do that. I got an email from Mark Van Bost, who's the head of building official at Hooter County Building Department. He wants to look over just the plan, which is reasonable, just to see what's happening in there. It's not, there's no structural changes, there's no big things. I think his interests are primarily from the fire safety code and that sort of thing. Where are the smoke detectors located? Where are those types of things? So, it's off vents, fans, those type of mechanical things. So I called Juan, stopped this afternoon, so I'm gonna pick up their blueprint and have him connect with the county building department tomorrow to do that. So those other improvements are not going to be on the port. Those will be a stop, improvements that they'll be interested. But anyway, all that to say, the process is moving now, so they're able to get people in there.
Beyond the traffic study.
Traffic study is
It's concurring, because I was about to go to the next city council meeting.
Well, it's something, you guys will have a chance to talk about some of these issues if you gather for a joint city board meeting at some point, just about, reasonableness and so forth, and I'll let you handle that, but anyway, but at this point, we have a green light for stop, so that's something to be happy about.
It is something to be happy about, and want to give an opportunity to thank Mark for his work on this project, which is why I asked for the update. Mark is the one who brought X-Stop to the plate and has held the hand all the way through this, pushing to get them down there into that building and removing hurdles all along the way. So, thank you, Mark. We're getting close. Spoke with Louise, I think she goes by Lou Palermo. She is the new executive director for what was formerly the Interpretive Center, but now is the Columbia Gorge Museum. She wanted to point out that the signs on the Bridge of the Gods as you leave town say that it's brought to you by the Gorge Interpretive Center, and she brought up changing those signs out. Wanted to know sort of the history of those signs. I don't know if anybody's taken a look at them, but they're pretty beat up. It's something we've looked at potentially in the past. She talked about maybe there was a way for them to help fundraise for some of those signs. What could we do? She also is looking for a place to temporarily store her collection. So that if we had someplace, it would maybe need to be available again at I mean, your collection may have to leave very quickly. So I'll leave it at that. I don't want to talk too much about where that collection might be stored at if we do end up storing it for him. But I'll bring that to you guys at some point in time. But it was good to connect with her, and kind of get a conversation started about the bridge, the signs on the bridge being replaced. I don't know that it'll make it into this budget year, but it's been cut from a couple other budgets, and it's probably time for them to get some love. I received feedback from most commissioners on the alcohol ordinance. I feel comfortable with what it's at. We've put out to the newspapers, published that we're going to be reading of an ordinance. There'll be 2 readings of an ordinance in the next 12 meetings, and then we'll adopt that. There'll be time for a public hearing on that as well. So, Casey, our camp host, is finishing up her tour with us, as she does every year around this time. So we wish her farewell. I was also able to hire 2 new toll takers. So welcome to the port, Sarah Patrick and Brianna Mills Dudley. So you'll now see their faces up there taking tolls and smiling. We're certainly glad to have them both. I have a Verizon Tower visit on Friday. We're gonna go out to the business park, check out where we potentially could put that Verizon tower. If we did, it would most likely be down up on the access road. So back down there behind Flex 6, there's a little access road that goes under, it's a gravel road. There's a couple of spots that they've looked at as being potential. If we zone in on one of those, I'll bring back to the commission what sort of lease we could expect out of that, if it's something we want down in our business park. So give some more details before it ends up here with a decision for you guys. Attended the museum fundraiser, had a really great time. I thought Jetty Light did a really good job. I got a lot of feedback. I think Jetty Light saw that they could do better for next year, but being first time out of the gates, I think they did an amazing job. Janice seemed very, very happy with it. Food was good. My wife bought a massage for full price. I was like, you're supposed to get it, you know, and pay full price. I have one more thing on here. Yes. I budgeted for it's been the last 2 or 3 budgets, and I had it in the budget this year for an operations manager. I've been slowly dragging my feet just a little bit on making that move to an operations manager until the business plan was in place. I'm starting to see some things operationally now that I need to make some movement on. So regardless of sort of the direction that you guys point forward in with that strategic business plan, I am going to need somebody who is overseeing the bridge, who is overseeing potentially the campground, who's overseeing some of the tenants' responsibilities out there. So we will see that job description published on our website soon, and I'll be looking to fill that position.
Excellent. And we gave you the blessing to go ahead with that kind of, I mean, you're in my mind, a lot of those operational things is that definitely your purview she was informed as to that.
Yeah, there was just sort of I think I had mentioned I was gonna drag my feet on making some of those moves until we got to that strategic business plan. But this is one that regardless of what you guys do, that person's going to need to exist. So I got some ideas about it and the way I'm gonna go in terms of hiring it, but I just want to make the commission aware that we're looking to bring on a pretty key person, so.
Excellent.
Any questions, comments, anything? Oh, fantastic. You like me going ahead? Is that it? All right, I moved it. Did you see that?
Yeah,
Or did I?
yeah, absolutely.
That makes me happy.
Commissioner comments. Start on either end, whoever would like to go first, ladies may start.
I'll start because I don't have much. I just want to thank everyone. I think I didn't thank the people that came last time, the running, the marathon, you know, those folks. I really enjoyed that, and I didn't thank them because I was thinking about something else. And also thank you guys very much for your support. I wish I could have gone to the museum. I had other plans, or to the masquerade. I had other plans. I did see some pictures, and I happened to see one of my other neighbors dressed up. She looked beautiful, and I'm glad everyone had a good time. Next year I'll be there.
Nice. Do you want to let Rob go?
Yeah.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, this past week I went to the Pacific Northwest Waterways Association. It's a great experience. A lot of people, a lot of networking opportunities. It was really neat to see how the Port of Vancouver has modernized their waterfront out there during the pandemic years. Quite surprising because I haven't been out there until prior to the pandemic. So it was really interesting to see how everything fit together and able to accomplish their goals. And just thank you to the rest of the port staff for working hard and getting ready for the winter season. So and that's all I have about right now.
I want to say thanks to all the presenters and Minbach, Barry Smith, Mark Johnson, as well as the Lindsay McClure. Thank you all very much. I also just want to give a shout out to the Historical Museum and that fundraiser. I also didn't attend, but it sounded like it was an incredible fun time. My wife danced a lot and she also bought things that she probably didn't need, but that happens and I'm happy for the museum. I was curious, talking about the parking lot and the bathroom in the parking lot. What security measures do we currently have in place for that parking lot? Anything?
I haven't secured nothing for that part.
Okay. I was chatting with, actually, it was a tourist that came to town and their car was broken into within minutes of leaving the parking lot. And so that was.
We do have a Port Authority vehicle,
Just parked down there.
that you borrow.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately pretty common on all of the local trailheads.
I was more curious about if that's happened more than once, or is that just kind of an error?
It's the only one that I have referred to, I did see busted glass up there, I don't know if it was the same one, but I know it was.
Okay.
How, since it's in town and it's not like at a trailhead, you know, off the highway. So to speak, what is security cameras?
So a security camera, sort of a roundabout figure to get it installed, to hook it up to the system, about $5 to $6 grand. That's for a high level security system, it's gonna take the weather and the views and ties to our system, yada yada. It was discussed going up there, but never quite made the plan.
Who put the building, the restroom in there? It'll need electricity for.
Oh yeah, it's all up there, it's all there, it would just be at the power there. That is something that we could look at.
With the restrooms being there, I think that would be good because it could be a potential place for
Yeah.
transient, you know, just.
Still need signage up there. We don't have any signage, for instance, says no for night parking. That's
Right.
kind of a no-brainer, but it's,
Right.
but that's still.
Yeah. I think not only from a personal property standpoint, but also just from a person standpoint, we probably need something up there. So, okay, just something, food for thought there. I know that we had previously talked about, just continuing to look into grants. I would imagine if we have the operations person in place, that might free up a little bit of either their time or your time to probably look into more grants. It'd be great and helpful. I know that at some of the very first meetings, just talking about moving us more into digital formats. I haven't really heard anything about that since, so it just came to mind, so I just want to bring that up again. Hopefully we can see some stuff soon. And then the last one, you were talking about the person moving their art, and it brought up something that I heard from a local citizen about potentially painting a mural on the driveway into Marine Park. Because right now it is just brown, it's paint.
The one reason,
Bridge.
so I've always thought that needed a mural, and then they painted it brown the other day. Todd's like, chose to paint it brown, I was like, well, a heads up would have been good, maybe
Yeah.
with that being said, he picked the color of the rust that comes down off the tracks up above it. Right, so that's somewhat of the concern right there, is they will put this beautiful mural, and then it kind of. I thought it would be also cool for it to be potentially a mural that rotates out, so maybe it isn't one that's there forever, right? It's one that maybe the school, maybe something for the school, when school comes down and the kids decide on a theme and they paint it, and then, but yeah, I've always thought that would be a cool spot for
So
art.
just food for thought, obviously we don't do anything on it right now, but just food for thought.
Certainly has a Union Pacific to help with that too.
Yes, well, if it's their rust that's gonna be dirtying up our mural, then maybe they can help paint or some paint.
I'm sure they'll jump right on.
Right?
Yeah. Other than that, I just want to say thanks for everything, for giving me all this agenda or whatever. I wasn't quite read it online, so I appreciate that. And I do really appreciate this letter to the tribes, and I look forward to taking part in that.
I especially appreciate it, because it makes it sound really good.
Exactly. Well, thank you.
Me?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I was one of the lucky ones. I got to attend the PNWA annual convention. There was lots of good presentations. I think Jeremiah touched on a lot of that stuff. I think for me, the best part was having the networking opportunities with other port commissioners, other port executive directors, and other people in the industry. Like I met an interesting person who works for an engineering firm that does a lot of seismic study type stuff, and so got to talk about the bridge projects and stuff, and got her card. And so just for like future, if we're out bidding stuff like that, we have more people that we can kind of let know that the RFP is out there or whatever. So I thought that was pretty cool. And look forward to future conventions and making more connections and seeing people and building those relationships. And then you brought up the Verizon tower, which brought a question in my mind I had to write down. If we go forward with something like that, would that provide more internet options to our town too? Because like, if we can ensure that that's something that would be like a service that they would provide for our town built in, it might be more desirable as well. Because we have a lot of complaints about internet service in our town. We've got, very few options, and T-Mobile is one of the cellular options right now, and a lot of people are using it, but you know, to have Verizon as an option might be, like a 5G option would be pretty cool.
I will discuss that on Friday and see if that winds up, I would assume it's gonna improve coverage in town to some degree, but I'll see if that's internet.
It was a big
Yeah.
topic at the infrastructure summit.
I also say if they're actually installing 5G towers, that definitely opens up the possibility of home internet options. So
Yeah, just a thought,
No,
just
great.
because I see local communities complaining about internet service a lot, so.
Great.
And I was gonna talk about Expo, but it sounds like I don't need to, so I'm pretty happy with that update. And I guess I'll jump on the bandwagon and thank everybody for everything.
Well, I guess I'll just say, also sort of thank you, especially thank you to our new commissioners who, are very diligent about, training and going to conferences and that sort of thing, because I blew off last week accidentally. I had committed to my previous employer, you know, I haven't been working for several months, but now I've committed to the week off that the supervisor that replaced me was on vacation, and I told him I'd come and cover for him, so I worked part of the week, and then our puppy dog had surgery, and then I had to go in for emergency, take her back open and all of that, so I spent a couple days, you know, taxiing the puppy back and forth to the vet, and, she's on the mend now. We've had to keep her heavily drugged because she's a total spaz and she tore out her stitches the first time and had all kinds of problems, but anyway, so I had a very busy week, but when Jeremiah called me and said, hey, when are you landing? I said, where did I fly? You know, it's kind of like, and he said, at the, you know, BNWA, I said, what? So I was very pleased to find out that I had great coverage there for the port, both Jeremiah
Oh, yeah.
and Rob and
Major props to Rob. I texted him at 1 and he was there before 3. Already
Wow.
checked into the hotel and everything, so.
that is awesome. Yeah, so, yeah, thanks to all the commissioners, all of you who have been really serious about training and doing extra things with the museum and with the Energy Council and all of the things that you've taken on and how serious you are about this and just the level of the commitment and how well you read your packets and obviously well plugged in. So I think the port's gonna do well. So that's pretty much all I have to say.
And one go back is that I went to the museum fundraiser too, and it was a really good time, and the silent auction was super awesome. And I got to use my port commissioner email address to request donations for it, and I think that helped get us some really cool donations for the silent auction.
Yeah, yeah.
Got like Mountain Meadows passes, I got the Skamania Lodge, which went into the raffle. My friend and coworker donated a $1,000 value, print.
I got beat out on that.
It was a print of, Falls Creek Falls in the winter. He almost died taking that shot. And it was printed on really high quality metal. It was a beautiful, gorgeous, somebody totally got a deal on it, so.
Yeah.
But it went to a very good home.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So hopefully we'll see more of that. I got Bonnie White's artwork donated, which was super cool. So look forward to being able to do more of that with the museum and stuff too, and maybe help plan a little bit better next year or early this coming year. For budgets reasons, a lot of people like, and you're requesting it 2-3 weeks before the event. They're like, well, we already spent our annual donation and charity budget, so we don't have anything we can give you. So if we request it earlier in the year and let them know, we're gonna need it by this time, I think a lot of people might write it into their budget for the year.
Right. Speaking of fundraisers, it's not port related, but the PTO is still accepting donations for their students jogathon. So that's happening right now at the elementary school. It'll be going through the 31st of the month.
Does it involve an actually have a job?
The elementary school kids did the jogathon on Thursday.
Oh, okay.
And they ran so much.
Oh, wow.
A lot. Yeah, each grade 15 minutes.
Wow.
It was a beautiful day. There's a lot of kids out there running.
But it wasn't like yesterday when I was driving home, it was like pouring down.
Oh, yeah, it was.
I saw one guy out there walking and he was just smiling, going, yeah, right.
No, it was a beautiful day, and it was really funny that all the parents and like friends and family we're all standing on one side of the track in the playground, and the kids would run as fast as possible while they were in front of us. We were cheering them on, and on the other side of the lap, and they would just like stop and walk. It's like, we can still see you. We can still see you. Go. But yeah, they are still accepting dollars for the fundraiser until the end of the month.
Awesome. Yeah, I also want to say, went to the museum fundraiser. It was amazing. The food was great. The Sally and Sarah did a great job. And Sally's husband.
I know, they
The
even
food was
provided
fantastic.
really good vegan options, which was really, really thoughtful.
Yeah, my wife was very happy. They had gluten-free and vegan and all the stuff, which was great. Like it's a great event, and said we'll get into the planning probably quicker next year, and I'm sure with all the new help, it'll be an even better event in the coming years. But they did well, and as you said, Jetty Light I think did an excellent job for their first go round, and
I think it was a perfect amount of people for their first time running a cruise like that.
yeah, it's a couple of the staff that you're in the headlights at the very beginning of the thing.
There was a pretty long wait for drinks at the beginning, so everybody was ordering 2 at a time just to make sure they didn't have to stand in line again.
Well, that's great. Let's see, I guess we did the business action items. We're no executive session or.
Reminder, we have a special meeting next Tuesday where we'll be discussing the power project. We will also have a discussion about potentially other ways to spend that 2.4 in the business park if we maybe settle on an amount to spend in the city. Good. I'm not sure we'll get there in that meeting, but we'll definitely walk away more educated. Potentially there'll be
Okay, special meeting, 6 o'clock, is it next Tuesday? Fantastic.
Do we have an
well-
agenda? And is there any pre-read material or anything like that?
me and Mark are gonna start working on this.
Great.
Yes.
It's
If you're
already
done it first,
posted on-
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
A second.
There's been a motion second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks all for attending.
Oh my goodness.
I signed all of these except for one.